Indiana Area Narcotics Anonymous welcome you to the second annual We Grow with Love convention. We would like to thank you for joining with us in this celebration of recovery. We are deeply grateful to Narcotics Anonymous and find great joy in being able to express our gratitude here with you, our family. In Narcotics Anonymous we are certain that when we come together to share our lives and love with each other, a miracle happens. Our recovery takes hard work, courage, and commitment. Those are the things that carry us through as we seek the spiritual growth that comes from working the 12 steps. Never alone, we do this together and for each other, knowing that we need each other because more than anything else, we grow with love. The preface to the basic text begins, "The fruit of the labor of love lives in the harvest, and that always comes in its right season." For us, our season has come. Would someone read, "Why Are We Here?"
My name is Shelley. I'm an addict. This is why we're here. Before community fellowship, then we cannot manage our lives. We cannot live and enjoy life as other people do. We had to have something different. We thought we found it in drugs. We placed our use ahead of the welfare of our families, our wives, husbands, and our children. We had to have drugs at all costs. We did many people great harm, but most of all we harmed ourselves. Through our inability to accept personal responsibilities, we were actually creating our own problems. We seem to be incapable of facing life on its own terms. Most of us realized that in our addiction we were slowly committing suicide. But addiction is such a cunning enemy of life that we have lost the power to do anything about it. Many of us ended up in jail, sought help through medicine, religion, and psychiatry. None of these methods was sufficient for us. As we surfaced or continued to progress until in desperation we sought help from each other in Narcotics Anonymous. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people. We suffer from a disease which there is no known cure. It can, however, be arrested at some point and then recovery is possible.
Thanks, Shelley. This time I'd like to introduce our first speaker that came all the way from Gary just to be with us today. Michael G.
Hello everyone, I'm addict called Mike. First of all, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me to speak. I know anytime I share with another recovering addict, at that moment I'm the main speaker. These topics on spirituality and self-esteem, I have to think of my grandmother, my great-grandmother, who passed 2 years ago while I was in recovery. And when I found out that she passed, I got up and I went down to my little office that I have at home, and I sat there and I remember writing that we bury the spiritual container only, that the spirit lives on through us. And when I wrote that, I had to go back and actually look at what I said, and look at what I actually wrote down. And her spirit will never leave me. That's what I think is when one addict is able to understand another addict is through the spirit. And that today, through this program, I'm not able to look at faces or genders. I don't have a problem with that because I'm able to know that within every container, no matter what the container looks like, there's a spirit inside, and that's what I need to come in contact with. It's not so much the house that contains it, but how do I get in touch with the spirit inside? And it's by sharing my experience, strength, and hope, and someone else sharing their experience, strength, and hope, that those spirits come together. I believe that my spirituality is about that I do believe, not how I believe or the way I believe, is that I do believe. I believe last year that when I came out here that I was going to have a good time. Last year I came out here and had a good time. This year I came out here on faith that I was going to have a good time. See, because I know from past experience that if I had a good time once, I can do it again. And it's that connection when we talk over the phone, or when we sit down and write a letter to the NAWA magazine, and how one person's experience I can identify. I can be able to say, wow, I've been through that. I was reading the NAWA one time, and I was at a convention, and I happened to just bring it up because one of the stories was, it's not all about fishing. And the guy who wrote it was sitting there, and that's how the Spirit connects all of us, by me reading that and having it and taking it with me. And I was able to meet the person that actually wrote that story. And whenever I come to conventions, I look around and the people I see are those people who write those letters. Those are the ones who share with me that first of the month when that yellow envelope comes in the mail, and I see and I sit there and I read it all the way through. It doesn't make a difference what else is going on at that moment. I'm gonna sit here and read this because it's important to me. Just to be able to touch on my self-esteem has grown, and I think that's because my spirituality has grown. Today I'm more able to accept myself. Earlier when I talked about it's not the container, because of the color of my hair, I was always told that I was different, but I never knew that I was the same. See, I was told that, hey, you look like this, so you're different. And I've come to find out that we all have the same fears and, same anxieties as everybody else. I've come to find out that I'm able to love like everyone else. I'm able to have acceptance like everyone else, and that makes me similar. And it's about the similarities and not about the differences. The similarity is that we all have the Spirit inside. And the difference is different container, and the different containers have different names so that I can be able to tell this spirit from that spirit over there. So when I look at that spirit over there, I know that's a different spirit from the spirit over here. And it's about me being able to believe that what that person has to give can help me. This was a couple months ago, and this is how I believe the Spirit works. There's a sentence in the basic text that says that we're not responsible for our disease, but we're responsible for our recovery. And I've been going into a prison for close to 5 years, and every time we get to that part in the book, the guys ask about it, and I couldn't explain it up until a couple months ago. But the Spirit, through a newcomer, was able to help me. And this was a newcomer who was in a halfway house, and we were sitting there and we were studying, and we came to that part, and this newcomer with 30 days told me that we're not responsible for our thinking, but we're responsible for our actions. And his Spirit explained that to me. Our spirits were able to connect the way he said it, and for the whole time before that, I couldn't explain that. So I know somebody who's come through the door, that their spirit is just as important as mine. And it's that those candlelight meetings when we sit down at, and you can't see nobody and all you hear is the voice. It's their spirit. I go to this Monday night meeting, and it's at a hospital, and every week the GSR stands up and he says, when we leave out of here, we got to be quiet. It's like he might well not say that, because when we leave out of there, we're happy and we're joyful and the Spirit is flowing and everybody's moving around and they're talking loud, and it doesn't make a difference. He might as well not have said that, but he says it every week. The hospital says it to us every week, and then at 9:30 we're out of there, and then we're standing outside the hospital and we're creating more noise, and that's the Spirit flowing. See, and I was glad this program was about the spirituality and not about the religion, because what a religion tells me is that yes, you've got to believe this way. You've got to do things this way. I found out that I can eat fish any day. I don't have to wait for a certain day just to eat fish. That I can wear these clothes, and today it's okay that I've been able to be accepted as I was. I didn't have to come in here with a tie on and, and a briefcase and, look like I was important, because I wasn't. My spirituality tells me that I'm just a part of. Out of all these rocks on the ground, I'm just one of them. And there's many here. And to be able to sit down and talk with someone else and understand what they're talking about, and try to understand how they're feeling, and listen to them tell me how they feel. And the only way, yes, it does come through the ears, but it's the Spirit that means that it travels through. You see the commercial, you see the fiber optic, and it looks like a piece of glass, and you can see through it. And yes, I understand today that the Spirit is nothing I can see, but that's what's best for me. All those things that I cannot see, all those things that I can see, yes, they are good for me, but they're not always good to me. And I know the difference today. To be able to, my self-esteem increases whenever I'm able to make new mistakes, because when I make new mistakes, I grow. And that was something that I just read over in the basic text, and I've read it many times, but it never really stood out like it does now, that I'm supposed to make new mistakes. You know, I'm not supposed to go back and make them old ones. You know, that's the insanity. And today, I'm learning that I can do things. Fear kept me from changing jobs. Fear told me, well, you're not going to be able to learn how to operate them machines. Fear told me that those people are not going to teach you how to operate the machines, that you get over there and you're going to fail. And today, I believe that I'd rather be a failure than a quitter. You know, because so many times I quit. You know, and that meant I was sure to fail. But so many times, if I fail today, it's okay. At least I can say, well, I gave it all I could. I couldn't do no better. You know, and every time I'm able to succeed, every time I do something good and it gets better, I'm able to feel better about myself, so my self-esteem grows. And it's been growing the longer I've been around here. You know, to be able to help someone else, to be able to bring a smile to someone else's face helps me. You know, to be able to talk to somebody and they come back and they say, well, I really got a lot out of what you said, and the spirituality flows because I don't know what I said. You know, I don't know. I'm thinking that what they heard was this part over here, and they heard that over here. Or I got a lot out of that. You know, all I know is I'm supposed to say it. Today I know that I can sit and I can watch people, and if you pay attention close enough, you can see when the Spirit takes over. Because you'll see them actually change right there, and I've seen it. You know, and it's like they stop talking, but the Spirit starts to talk. You know, and that way, that's when I'm able to feel it. That's when I'm able to know I'm in the right place. That's when I'm able to know I'm around the right people. You know, my spirit is not always in a good space every day, but at least it's not in that bad space all the time like it was. And that's a big difference. Today, I'm able to recognize the spirituality in this program. You know, when we get to fighting in the area and the region and all of those things, and things still work out, it's got to be the Spirit. It can't be me, because a lot of times my personality is in there and it don't want things to work out, but it works out anyway. Things come together, learning days go off, conventions come together, and that's the Spirit that works through all of us. You know, and there's no single person. But again, I must look at and remember to pay attention to what's going on the inside, not about the mask that I have on the outside, because I've been covering up things for a long time. You know, and it's only now that I'm able to pull some of them things away and say, no, Mike, that's not it. Look a little deeper. You know, find out where the Spirit is moving inside you, and usually my Spirit will tell me basically how I feel. You know, not about what I think, because today I'm learning there's a difference between the two. But again, I'd like to thank the committee for letting me share, and I'm not going to take up too much time. That's all I got.
Our next speaker came from Michigan to share with us. Her name's Debbie G.
Morning. I'm an addict. My name's Debbie. And I hope you can hear me, and I hope I don't talk too fast, because those are a couple things I tend to do when I get here and you're there. I was sitting thinking about the possible... let me back up. I've been asked to share about spirituality before and other times in my recovery. And there have been times in my recovery when I've been real uncomfortable about being asked to share about spirituality. One time I remember was because I was new and didn't have a clue. And I wanted y'all to love me so much. And I thought that the way that was supposed to happen is I was supposed to know. Another time in my recovery was when I should have known, and I didn't. And I didn't want you to know that I didn't know. And I remember the time when I was asked to share when I felt like I should be someplace I wasn't in recovery. I was supposed to be further. I had this much clean time. I was supposed to be doing this step, and I was supposed to be living this way of life. And see, I looked at you and measured me, and it didn't look the same. And so, all that stuff that we do when we get here. And I remember feverishly, I was at a retreat 3 or 4 years ago up north, and I remember feverishly in my room looking through the basic text and highlighting every place where spirituality was in the book. And it dawned on me that, maybe this was what I was supposed to be working on, And what I had been doing at that time is I'd been working on a 6-step with my sponsor. And the topic was spiritual maintenance. And she shared with me that morning, because I always thought I was supposed to call my sponsor before I shared in front of somebody, because somehow I was going to be anointed or something, and I'd share profound wonderness and you'd all go, wow. So I called my sponsor that morning, and she reminded me that the message is that you can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live, that the message is hope and the promise is freedom. And that the 6th step that I've been working on was all about spiritual maintenance. That if I was changing the way I lived my life, I was doing something in a spiritual nature. I remember coming around and listening to people share about the controversy of spiritual versus religion. See, and I didn't have no religion when I got here. I feel blessed. I would tell you that I feel so grateful today that I didn't have that conflict. I have watched addicts use over that conflict. God gave me a gift and said, we ain't going to mess with that part of your brain. You're screwed up enough. We're going to send you to them with what you got. We're not going to give you any more. So I have this sense of gratitude of not feeling that confusion. But I think along the way, I began to feel or began to think, I began to try to think my way out of my thinking disease. The disease that got me here. I have a problem. I sit down, I said, let's think about it. And so I began to think that maybe I was missing something. That maybe this was a spiritual versus religious thing, and I was on the wrong path. I'm always worried about being on the wrong path. I believe today there isn't wrong path. It's a path. If it don't work, put it down and pick up something new. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What works for me, you might use over. I don't know. So getting caught up in that struggle and then going all the way back to the other side. And what I believe today, I guess what I'm trying to share is that for me, spirituality is about spiritual principles. It's about the lessons that I learned through working the steps. One of the most powerful messages of a spiritual principle that I remember hearing a man share about was the principle of reciprocity, was the principle of we reap what we sow. And what he said, and it's something I try to live by, is if I'm living a life full of honesty and love, I will have a life full of honesty and love. If I'm living a life full of dishonesty and deceit, I will have a life full of dishonesty and deceit. And that if Narcotics Anonymous tells me I'm supposed to change the way I live, and if I change the way I live, just one thing, everything, if I change, it'll get better. So when the topic came up again yesterday when Gary and I were talking, and I was kind of joking with him about the topic that they had mailed to me, and I believe I'm where I'm supposed to be. I don't know if you believe that, but even if it's uncomfortable, it's where I'm supposed to be, in life. And so I was thinking about last night and this morning about the spiritual principles and the ones that I've not been practicing in my life, and the uncomfortableness that results from not doing what I know works. Writing works. Why don't I do it? I don't know. Reservation, fear, something in a direction opposite from what I believe the program's teaching me. A long time ago, a woman shared that we were spiritual beings having a human experience, and I thought that was so profound. It was like, wow. That makes it easy. I can do that, and I forget that too. Picked up something last night, I couldn't sleep, and I was reading this line, and it said, God already made you perfect. All you need to do is let go of the stuff that won't let you be. It's like, wow. Oh, okay. You know, the fears, the reservations, the walls, the denial, the distrust, the dishonesty, the deceit, all those things that keep you away from me, and I don't have to let you in, and you don't have to know who I am, and I don't have to share the truth. The other thing I was thinking about the two topics is I was kind of intellectualizing why they were selected to be together. Because, like, I know program committees get together and they, like, really scrutinize over this stuff. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they draw names out of hats or some stuff. I don't know. But just like Mike said, I think it's like an action-reaction type thing, you know? The more good things I do, and I'll use good to mean not in violation of my morality, not my parents', not NA's, not the social structure, but my morality, you know, the one that I identified in my fifth step with my sponsor. The more I live life based on my morality, the better I feel about myself. First sponsor I ever had, I don't know, I picked her because I was going through a divorce, and she stayed clean through a divorce, and like that was my focus. Don't use and live through this. And so I asked her to be my sponsor, not wanting anything else. I don't want direction, I don't want the steps, I just don't want to use. And I was secretary of some group in town. And they had sent me to the store to purchase the birthday cake for the first 1 year NA anniversary in Battle Creek history. I mean, like, to me, I was God going to the Mecca to buy, I mean, this was like the assignment. So I went to the store with this NA money, our seventh tradition, of which we had very little. There was 5 of us in NA. And I went there, and she charged me the wrong amount, and I saved like $4. And I was like, wow, thank you, God. This is so cool, you know. And I rushed home, and I told my significant other, and he looks at me, and he says, I think you should call your sponsor. And I still don't have a clue. I was like, what is he talking about? Maybe she wants to know. How exciting, you know? I was like, yes, this message of hope and promise of freedom. So I get on the phone and I call my sponsor, and she tells me that I need to go back and I need to be honest and I need to pay for what I owe. And I got to tell you that the people at that grocery store looked at me real weird when I walked back in there with my receipt and I said, you charged me $3 and I owe you $7. But you know what? When I walked out of there, I felt good about me. I felt something I had never felt since I can't remember. You know, I had used for so many years. I had violated every moral principle that existed. I had violated moral principles that didn't exist. And all of a sudden, all it took was giving somebody $3 because I owed them and they didn't know it. And it would make me feel better about me. And somewhere along the line, doing those little itty-bitty maintenance things, rigorous honesty. It says in chapter 6, rigorous honesty. It doesn't say sort of honest. It doesn't say, I'm not going to tell you the things that'll hurt you, honest. It says, if we practice rigorous honesty, we will be free. That's real hard for me to do. The longer I'm here, the harder it gets. But if I start doing these little maintenance things that my sponsor suggests, I start feeling better about myself. I start being able to come to a meeting and tell you that I'm hurting, tell you that I want to use, tell you that I screwed up. And you know what? Somewhere deep inside of me, I don't know if I know it or you know it or I just don't care. It don't matter if you love me. Because if I can't love myself, it won't work. I went to NA meetings for a long time and they shared, let us love to you till you can love yourself. And I thought that was like, wow, such a sacrifice for them. How could you love this? How could you love this? I thought they were weird. They want my money. I didn't have any, but they want it anyways. They're all getting high, and if I get the right, you know, if I stay here long enough, they'll share the secret. Or they've crossed the line. You know, I mean, it couldn't be. I don't know about you, maybe you guys were lucky, but there was never anybody in my life, I don't have any recollection of anyone in my life ever loving me for who I was. Never loving me just because I was. Never saying you're enough, you're worthy, you count. Those weren't the messages I got. More, not enough, conditional, only if you wouldn't, you know, and so what I believe spiritual principles have done for me is they've given me the opportunity, they've given me the courage, the power that talks about in the 11th step, the knowledge and the power to change about how I look at me, about how I feel about me. Because, see, I'm not doing nasty things that makes me feel bad about myself. Last 3 years I would feel bad. I would do something degrading. I would use because I felt bad. I would feel bad. I would do something. I mean, it was that really vicious cycle. And so when I started being honest and being open-minded and being willing, I started feeling better about myself. Today, some of my powerful little itty-bitty steps in self-esteem is saying no when the consequence of not saying no may benefit you, but it'll jeopardize me. Being okay with saying that's not okay, and it's not going to happen that way when I see somebody being violated. Things that happen in life today that aren't okay, that violate boundaries of people, you have a right to say that's not okay, you know. For a long time, and I struggle with this one too, one of my spiritual principles has to do with respecting others' boundaries, and I'll talk about profanity for me. See, I may be okay with it, but you may not, and you don't have an option not to listen to it if I say it. So if I'm practicing and living spiritual principles, and if I'm respecting others, which is one of the spiritual principles, respect for others, is that I don't participate in that today. You know, I know it's a wall anyways. I know it's something that makes me somebody I'm not, just like the drugs used to do. And it keeps me from letting you in. It's like, I don't know if any of this is making sense, but all I ever wanted when I got here was to be loved. All I ever wanted was for somebody to just love me for who I was. The insanity of this disease is that you won't tell a soul who you are, and you wonder why it doesn't feel good when they love you. Because they don't know who you are anyway. I mean, you know, it's like this disease is so, like, let's take the brain and replace it with something else. So I don't know. I've been working on some self-esteem stuff through my daughter. I have a 3.5-year-old, and it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to try to not practice some cycle things that happen to me. I got this from a woman at a retreat, probably the same year that I pretended to talk about spirituality, and she shared that she had a daughter and she was teaching her daughter, she was asking her daughter to tell her who loved her. And she said, well, Mommy loves me. She said, and Daddy loves me. And she said, and I love myself. And I thought that was so profound. At 25 years old, when I walked in the doors of Narcotics Anonymous, I couldn't even say the word love, let alone anything in a sentence that had my name in it. And to be able to give the gift of unconditional self-love and surrender to a child and say, when I look at my daughter and I ask her who loves her, she says, you do, and Daddy does, and I love myself. And I said, don't you ever forget that. You know, you're precious, you're enough, you're worthy, all those messages that we need to hear to be able to grow, you know. I just think the miracle of the steps has been such a profound, I don't know who wrote them. I mean, I have a few ideas. I mean, I've met some people that sat around and kicked out the basic text and but I don't know. I mean, there must have been something really, really powerful there during that period of time. And maybe it's just as we've grown as a fellowship, our interpretation of the steps have changed and it's gotten deeper and you can take it as far as you want. But I've watched the steps clear that baggage, clear that wreckage, clear those messages, and free me and give me an opportunity to feed something new in there, to give myself good messages. Here's a good example. When you're called into your boss's office, not go, oh my God, what did I do? To get a letter in the mail that's like, oh my God, what is it? You know, that, what I do, run, hide, hurry, you know? It's like, that for me is an indication that I probably have some maintenance in an area that needs to be looked at inside. I don't know. The other thing that's been happening to me real recently that I'll share with you, just because it's kind of like, it's where I'm at. I'm finding that, like anything else in recovery, this process of recovery, how we grow up and change, and we accept that who we are, and then we accept who we're not, and then we, get honest. I find that in the midst of a crisis, and the closer the person, the more I have at stake, the more powerful it is, the quicker those defects that will suck me in and keep me away from you come back. And it's the questioning self-esteem stuff I'm noticing today. Questioning whether I have a right to meet my needs, sort of stuff. And I'm not sure what that's about. I'm not sure if that's normal or abnormal, and I've stopped trying to figure all that stuff out. I think. I don't know. My sponsor probably disagrees with that, but I guess the gift of being able to come here and share about it is that I know I'm okay, and I know it's going to get better, and that as long as I continue to do the maintenance and do the things that you keep teaching me I'm supposed to be doing, it will get better. I want to share with you a story about self-esteem, and this kind of for me, it's not my story, but I'll share you my version of a story that happened 5 years after I heard the story. The story came from a man in Baltimore, and he shared it in Wisconsin, and his story was about a fast car, and a computer. My story's about me and my dog. I don't have enough money to own a computer, so I had a dog. Anyways, here's how the story goes. I'm in my car one day, driving as I usually drive, living an honest, rigorous, spiritually maintenance program, doing 100 miles an hour down a 55-mile-an-hour county road, with my fuzzbuster, because I got cling and I didn't slow down. I bought a fuzzbuster. They taught me that you need to change because insanity was repeating the same mistake and expecting different results, so I bought a fuzzbuster. It dawned on me about 5 years later that rigorous honesty meant following the law. All of them, even the ones I don't agree with. So I'm in my car and I'm peeling up this road from Battle Creek to Grand Rapids because I'm in a hurry to get nowheres. Because I don't know if you were like me, but at 3 and 4 years clean, I didn't want to be alone with me. I mean, in the car, fast drive, hurry, get there, get back, I don't know. It was just like this rush to go nowheres. So I'm in my car and I'm tooling up M37 with this little county road, and it's a very high industrial road as far as traffic, and there's a lot of traffic, and I'm passing in no passing zones and on curves, and because I'm a Richard Petty driver, and I've been doing this for years, and I'm good, and I'm driving because I'm picking up my dog who's been at the kennel, who I've bred, and we're going to have puppies. We're going to have purebred puppies. None of this hillbilly stuff that my mom and dad always had, and then they're weird anyways when you have them. I'm a somebody. I'm in recovery. I'm responsible. I'm going to pay for the license and do it all legal as I drive 100 miles an hour to get this dog. I get the dog. We get in the car. I put her in the back seat. I get the blanket all nice and get her all comfortable, and I drove 40 miles an hour all the way home. Now, it dawned on me, what hit me was the story I had heard about a man and his computer. And the only thing that was different that time was that there was somebody important in the car. The dog had puppies, and there was money, and there was somebody important in the car. And that was a place I never wanted to be with 3.5 years clean, was to realize that a dog was more important in a car than I was. The man who shared the story, his story was about a computer. And it dawned on him because he was on the loop of Baltimore with a computer with a seatbelt wrapped around it, and he didn't have his on. And when he shared that story that day, I don't know, I had 90 days clean, 6 months clean. I don't know. I lied about how much clean time I had for the first year I was here, so that's all a fog for me. But anyways, the day he shared that story, I thought, oh my God, how terrible. I'm so glad I'm not like that. And maybe I wasn't at 90 days, but I sure was at 3.5 years. I didn't love myself enough to care about my own security and safety, but it mattered a whole lot when I had a dog in the back seat of my car. And it was a real rude awakening to me that I really needed to work on me. I really needed to get a grip on, if you don't love yourself, nobody else will. At some point, Narcotics Anonymous, the steps, God, your sponsor, the meetings, service work, everything we do to fill the hole will stop filling the hole. It will stop fitting. It did for me. And I have to learn how to heal the hole. That's where I'm at today with it, folks. That's what I believe today. Next year it could be different. Just for today, I believe the hole is healable. I don't think I have to fill it with anything. I don't think I have to fill it with God. I think God's in there already. Maybe the hole is how he or she or it seeps out, and I lose conscious contact. I'm not sure. But I just believe the hole is healable, and it's through that self-esteem. It's through that not practicing the self-defeating, self-loathing behaviors that take me places I don't want to go. Really, really grateful to be clean today. Really, really, really grateful to be an addict today. It's given me some tools to deal with some really stressful things in my life. Some things that God or whatever says it's time for you to learn this lesson, and I go, but I don't want to. It's going to hurt. The other line I read in the book last night that I was reading when I was up all night had to do with painful lessons and that it's all about growth and nobody promises that it wouldn't be painless, but it will be a growing experience. I've been in some really uncomfortable situations, and I've got some spiritual, I call them spiritual giants. I don't know, I call them Obi-Wans, dinosaurs. They're the ones who always say the right things and seem like they've been there forever. Loved me when I was crazy. And this one man always says to me that he always is like, wow, I'm really envious. It's an opportunity for spiritual growth. And I'm like, well, here, you can have it. It's like, I've had 3 opportunities this year already. I'm well outgrown, But if I keep that in mind, if I keep that attitude, the attitude of gratitude, I'll be okay. Last thing I thought about, and it didn't even dawn on me until Mike was sharing, we started a group in Battle Creek a few years ago, and it was a step study, and that was like a profound awakening for Battle Creek, because we've been having meetings for 5 years talking about how we used to use and how we don't now. And someone suggested the steps. It's like, wow, what a concept. Let's try that. How do you do that? And they say, well, you read them for starters. So we started the step meeting, and we really wanted the name of the group to reflect what we were trying to do. And at that time, my sponsor was beginning to teach me things like, if you're not a part of, just because you're not a part of the problem, doesn't mean you're a part of the solution. And I was like, I don't like that. I can't sit back and watch. And so we named our group Spiritual Solutions. And I think one of the things that has stood the test of time with that group is I have watched the sharing and listened to the sharing in the meetings, and we're always trying to live in the solution. We're always trying to not be stuck. And it may be where I'm supposed to be. Sometimes all I have to give away is my disease, and that's it. And that's all I got. And that's where I'm supposed to be. But if I have somebody else in my life that's able to point out a solution or offer a solution or say, if you cross the street and look at the problem, it's still the problem. What's the solution? Just that spiritual solution. I just was sitting there going, wow, how profound. That was a really good name, and I don't know why we picked it. We were really sick then, and I don't think it had anything to do with knowing what we were doing. But I don't know, really, really grateful to be here. This is a really nice place. This is a really loving, kind of calming sort of environment, and I don't know anybody here except the 2 people that came with me from Michigan, and a measurement of spirituality and self-esteem is that I don't need to. It's like, I can go someplace by myself and know no one and not hide. First retreat I ever went to, I specifically on purpose picked, they had the cabin assignment and you signed in. I signed in a cabin by myself because I didn't want to be with nobody. And I was thinking yesterday when I got here, I knew there was one other person staying with me, maybe 2, and I picked a room with lots of beds on purpose because I wanted to be around other people. I was okay meeting new people. I knew that that's what I need to stay clean. And it was just like, okay, I'm still growing. All right, good. good. So, I don't know. I don't have anything else to share. Thanks a lot for letting me share. Grateful to be here.
Before
Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that you are being taped. If you do not wish to be taped, please let us know so we can turn off the machine. Anybody want to share? Anything they want to say? Still Bill's still an addict. Like I say, I heard some things that I can really use, and I'm really grateful. And there's a lot of people I don't know here either, and that's great, because that's what keeps me clean. And that's all I got. Like to help me close with a group hug?
Thanks for sharing and sharing.
Said a lot. Let's go around the table.
Let's go around the table here, Bill. Let's go to the table, too.
Okay.
You go, Gary. Yeah. Let's get around the table. Whoa. What is that?